I decided to quit teaching. So I went home, sold everything, the sofa set, TV, everything, except our suitcases and our clothes and my son's bike. Nikaenda mpaka home, and that is where I went and decided this is where I'm going now to. Hapa ndo ndachukulia map sasa. I was able to survive through mobile loan apps. I used to lend from them every day. So I used to lend from this one and pay this one. I don't have anybody in mind that I'm competing with, because I don't know where you get your monies from. I don't know what your focus is on. Me, I compete with the kid who was cooking chips and chapatis on the streets of Nairobi.
Tuko family, my name is Kingori Wangeshi. You asked for it and we bring it to you, hot as it is. You said that you want some inspirational stories, and today's guest is just one of those. She's an amazing entrepreneur here in Kenya and specifically in Nairobi, but her business tentacles are, can we say, almost all over the world? Well, she'll tell us about it. I'm talking about Kate Vlogs Enterprises. Let's meet her. Kate.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to Tuko.
Yeah,
this
thank
is
you.
Inspire Kenya. I saw your story. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
So we are ready to get some nuggets from you.
Okay.
But before that, kindly introduce yourself to our audience.
Okay, my name is Catherine Omboy, aka Kate Vlogs, and I'm the owner of Kate Vlogs Enterprises that is located in Kamkunji. I'm a businesswoman, and I'm also professionally trained as a biology and chemistry teacher. I have worked as a teacher for almost 9 years now. Yeah.
And how is your family? Your family?
I am a single mother of one. Yeah, for the last 11 years. He turned 11 years this month. Yeah, so I've been bringing up my son alone for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us why, or we can just move on to business?
I'm going to mention in maybe some areas when we'll be talking. Yeah, but I'm just a single mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your story is very inspirational.
Yeah.
So we are here for the lessons.
Okay.
First of all, do I say congratulations for the fact that you've come, but let the congratulations come at the end of the story.
Okay.
You said you're a teacher?
Yeah, by profession.
By profession,
yeah.
But that's not what you're doing today.
No. You're
running Kate Vlogs.
I'm running my business. I do errands. I still go to Gikomba to hustle for people. Yeah.
So what happened? How did you shift from teaching to business?
So I will start from when I was a student and how I became a mom, a young mother. So I went to Egerton, and when I went to Egerton, I studied Bachelor of Science General. So that translates to a course that is not widely known. A lot of people don't understand Bachelor of Science. And I did that course because I felt like this is a big university, they know what they are doing, so I'm going to do it. And the reason why I decided to, I think the reason they called me to do that course is because I had applied for, I had applied to such courses that are medical related. So I think that was what was nearest because of how my grade was when I was a Form 4 student. So I did a Bachelor of Science General, and after university, that is when it dawned on me that this course actually is not as marketable as I thought. Initially, I had gone for my attachment at Kenya Medical Research Institute, and I thought that maybe that is one area that I can go to and at least get some employment, or any other research institute in Kenya. I actually visited a lot of research institutes like ILRI, International Livestock Research Institute, KEFRI, Kenya Force, anything to do with research, because according to the lecturers in Egerton, we were supposed to be researchers by the end of that course. So fast forward, I got pregnant, and before even I graduated, my son was born like 4 months after graduation. So you can imagine, you have this certificate and you are a young mom and you don't have any source of employment. So what happened is I decided to try teaching. A lot of people were telling me that I can really do well in teaching because the courses I did in Egerton actually translated to biology and chemistry because I specialized in botany, zoology, and chemistry. So I started looking for a school, and luckily I got Springboard High School in Kerugoya. They were paying me 12,000 shillings. And by this time, my son was 1 year because I got the teaching position in 2014. 12,000 was too little because I had a house manager, I had rent to pay, and I had definitely the normal bills that you know, za nyumba, shopping, kidogo kidogo, the child wants milk, all those things. So 12,000 and all those bills zikuwa zinaingiana vizuri. So later on, I decided to look for another school. That is when I got an opportunity to go and teach in Ngaru Girls in Kerugoya. So I taught in Ngaru Girls for several years. But while teaching in Ngaru Girls, that is when I developed a real passion to becoming a biology and chemistry teacher because I would relate with the students, and then the environment was actually friendly. And I was also getting some more remuneration, not like when I was in this other school. So when I talk about more money is because being a biology and chemistry teacher, and this is a big public school, I had a lot of opportunities to teach several classes, and that translates to several remedial classes, and that translates to more money because remedial classes were actually happening morning from 6 to 7 and then 5 to 6. Na kila lesson ilikuwa 600 shillings. To me, that was a lot of money.
Yes.
So later on, after teaching in that school, I was made the class teacher. There was a time I was made the boarding mistress. And I used to really relate well with students. And I actually can say this on record that I was among the best biology teachers in Ngaru Girls. They can comment if they are watching me. Yeah, so I used to do it with a lot of passion to also make sure that I continue working in that institution based on the fact that also I had no TSC number. So somehow I had this idea in mind that they are actually giving me as in wananisaidia sana vile wameniandika sababu it's me who needs them most. Sina TSC number. So fast forward, ikaendelea hivo, I was just teaching, and then this fateful day TSC announces that no teacher should go to class without a TSC number. Hey, hapo ndo mambo ili change. I remember the principal calling me and telling me that, Kate, I hope that you've seen the news, nini, and it seems that now you have to look for a TSC number, and the only way you can do that is by you going back to school and doing a postgraduate diploma in education. So at this point, my son is also growing. He's actually a school-going child. I still have a house girl. I still have rent to pay in Kerugoya. And I still had to remain with some money, definitely, for upkeep, transport here and there, supper, groceries. So that came as a shock. And I started looking for a school which was a bit affordable. I remember in my search, I went to several universities online. I used to Google a lot. So I checked several universities. Most of them were charging around 160,000 and above for that particular course, postgraduate diploma in education. So there was this affordable university that actually charged less than that. It was almost approximately 125,000. And the next thing that made me choose this particular institution is because they were flexible in terms of payment. You can ile unaweza lipa nusu nusu. So I took that opportunity very fast. Yeah, and
if they had paid, you would mention them, but because that would be advertising.
Yeah, that will be advertising.
We won't.
Yeah, so I went to this school, registered as a student, and I started the classes. And because I'm this person that always love some kind of leadership position, I was made the class rep of that particular wale walikuwa me apply for that particular course at that time. I was their class rep. So lecturers ni walikuwa napigia, so today we have pedagogy, tomorrow you have curriculum, you know, those courses za education. So the reason why you require PGD is for you to qualify to be a teacher fully, because you are taught how to handle students, and definitely there are legal things that also a teacher learns on how to discipline students, all those things you learn in school as a teacher, so that you have limits when you're dealing with students.
But for you, in as much as you had gone back to do postgraduate diploma, these are things that you were doing when you were teaching?
I was actually doing them. What I did not know was how to record schemes of work, records of work, and that one you are also taught when you go to do PGD. I registered for that course in 2016 and I started my classes. I used to go to school during holidays. So when the students break for April holiday, that is when I used to travel to that school. And then 3 weeks is when we were doing like a crash program yenye mnasoma almost throughout mpaka jioni kabisa. So by the end of the year, the graduation was supposed to happen. And it happened, but I did not graduate because I had not completed paying. By this time, I had paid almost 70% of the school fees. So the pending balance was approximately 45,000 that I was not able to pay. So that is how I missed that graduation ceremony. I missed 2017 graduation and I also missed 2018 graduation. But before the 2018 end of year 2018 ifike, nilikuwa nimeanza ku give up na history education. I had started like giving up. I feel like this is not my thing because I think the journey is getting challenging. 45,000 seems like small money, but to me that was a big deal. I used to pay I think 3,000 shillings for my son's school fees, 3,500 for my 1-bedroom apartment. I used to pay the house manager at that time 5,000 shillings. So when you talk about 45,000, you're talking about my 3 months salary. What are you talking about? You know? So that was a lot of money to me. And it reached a point where my dream of now becoming a TSC teacher came to a point where I felt, it's not working.
Is that where you decided now you don't want to do anything with education, you now want to do business?
So obviously after missing several graduations, there is a chance that you'll start feeling like maybe this thing was not for you. You know, the way we think, maybe tu ikukua yangu, acha tu ni focus na other things. So I remember in 2018, April, when we had like, the kids had gone for holidays, that is when I sat down in my living room alone. My son was outside playing and that is when I started thinking about my life and where it's heading. And I decided that this cycle, no, there is no way. From 2014 up to now 2018, my life is about getting 15,000, paying bills, paying the house girl, paying for my son's school fees, doing some small shopping, and then I'm left with around 2,500. And I was like, no, this cycle has to come to an end. So that is when I decided to quit. I did not call the school. I did not do nothing. But when opening day came, you know, when the students were coming back from home, I went as a normal teacher, well-dressed like a high school teacher. And I went to the staff meeting, you know, the way shule kifunguliwa ni staff meeting huwa inaanza. So I sat down. Staff meeting ikaendelea, there was a new principal, we were served, nini, soda hapa kule. But I knew this is the last table for me. This is... So my mind was not actually in that. I remember another teacher telling me, "Bede, uko duty week 5," and I was like, "Ni sawa, no problem. Nikijua tu sitakuwa." So the reason why I went to school was to clear. I did not want to like live like nilifanyiwa kitu mbaya. No. So this is an institution and I'm Kate. So it was about me. Am I happy? No, I was not happy. Reason, the remuneration was not enough for me and my son. So I looked for a way in which I wanted to go out there and like niangalie nini the world has to offer for us. So that is how I was thinking. At this point when I was quitting, I was actually a class teacher of a candidate class, and I actually had candidates. I had a candidate class, biology and chemistry class candidate. But you know, my bills don't know that bit. I was a very, very good teacher, as I mentioned. I remember in 2017 when the results came, biology results, my class led the whole stream. It's my class that led, and it's because I used to really work so hard. So I decided to quit teaching. So I went home, sold everything, the sofa set, TV, everything except our suitcases and our clothes and my son's bike. So ile pesa nilikuwa nimelipwa yote after selling my stuff, my household stuffs, is what I used to I rented a taxi. nikaenda mpaka home, and that is where I went and decided this is where I'm going now to. Hapa ndo ndachukulia map sasa. I wanted now to rethink my life decisions, because we have a child here. He's 5 years old. If I don't act quickly, he will not go to school. So that is when I decided to start like doing odd jobs, started searching online for opportunities outside there. And that is when I started even thinking of going to Saudi Arabia. Actually, there is a classmate of mine, a primary classmate, that is in Saudi. So she used to tell me the way she's building a good house for the mom. And I was like, I need to go to this Saudi Arabia. But I was like, with my condition, because I used to have a problem with my chest. And I used to think, sister, sijui kama nitawezana. The way nasikianga watu wanakimbizwa huko mbio, yani unafaa tu kufanya kazi. I used to think maybe nitashindwa. I also tried going to Somaliland. I don't know if you know Somaliland, but there were opportunities, education opportunities there where teachers were paid at least 60,000. To me, that would have been almost 5 times what I was receiving. So I felt like, Somaliland is a good deal. But definitely after consulting the agencies in Kenya, they were telling me to be ready to change my dress code, the way I talk, to be of that other religion. So I went to Facebook, did some research. From the comments, I decided, no, I'm not going to Somaliland. So what next? Remember, my son is waiting for mom to bring him something in the evening, even when I'm going out. Hajui mama aliacha kazi. So after the 2 opportunities zenye nilikuwa nimeona online, niliona they're not working for me. Going to Somaliland is a no, going to Saudi, no. I decided to look for a teaching opportunity in Kenya, specifically Nairobi. Once again, because I felt, this is the only area that naweza pata kazi haraka. And I thought that maybe I'll get better remuneration outside there. So I started looking for a school seriously. And I got a school in Juja Road. Juja Road is near Isli. So that is where I got a school. But this school is a Muslim kind of school. All students are actually Muslim. And they're separated. So one side is Midway Boys, the other side is Juja Girls. It's one school, but they are not mixed. So that is where I taught for several months, and then I felt, still this is not where I want to be. And that is when I decided to go to City Cotton slums. So the conditions of that schools were not very favorable to me, and I wanted a situation where I can bring my son along, tuanze kuishi na yeye, at least nimtekie care mimi mwenyewe. That's my responsibility, right? So I found myself in City Cotton slums in Buruburu, and that is where I started doing odd jobs, what I can call odd jobs. So 2018, do you mean City Cotton slums? And the reason why I went to City Cotton slums is because the rent there was not high. Nyumba ilikuwa cheap, ilikuwa 3,000. Na ilikuwa nyumba ya mawe, ilikuwa nyumba ya mabati. So that is why I decided to go and start my life there. And when I went to City Cotton slums, I did not tell anybody that I'm trained. I did not tell anybody that I'm a teacher. Sikutaka mtu ajue, so that if I started doing my other businesses there, they will support me like a normal person. As in, kusikwe na that car. Ule mwalimu ndo anapika pale, no. So I bought a jiko, and I bought ile kara ya kupika chips. Jiko unajua ile kuna handles mbili. And I went to the supermarket, bought some tomato sauce. Zile tu vitu basic when you want to cook chips. So that is what I bought. Nikaanza kupika chips hapo kwa barabara. Biashara ya chips kidogo ikakuwa tricky. Most people wanted, like, if you want chips worth 50 shillings, they want you to put like a lot. So na sikuwa nimezoea hiyo biashara. So those were the challenges that were there. Jiko haipiki vizuri, mafuta inajaa kwa viazi. It was actually very challenging. And then later on I decided to do chapos.
That was on the streets?
Yeah.
Not
kwa barabara.
Not a stall?
No. Inje tu actually nilikuwa nimekelea jiko kwa lami hapo kando. So later on nikaanza tena kupika chapati. Chapati business was tricky. So mimi nimezoea kama ni unga ile kubwa, naweza toa chapati kama maybe 15 or something. But people were advising me kama ni za biashara lazima zikuwe zile nyembamba kabisa. Hey, that was tricky. Sababu saka hujazoea hivyo, ukipika zinatoka kazi kwa flat. Huwezi kunja mara mbili, imekuwa tu sasa ni sacrament. Kai. ile the last supper. So that is what I used to make.
Ukikunja inakatika.
Inavunjika.
Inavunjika, the word is kuvunjika.
Yeah.
It breaks.
So those two businesses were actually not working for me. Sikuwa naweza kurelate profit inaingiaje, sikuwa naweza, like right now I'm able to calculate profits. I know what I'm making, I know where the losses are coming from, but at that point with the food it was difficult. So life yangu haiwezi kuwa na break. Hakuna vile naweza sema let me rest for a week nione vile naweza jipanga. So what happened is immediately I started looking for a hairdressing job in Facebook. Actually my phone was full of pages za biashara, jobs in Kenya, job opportunities in Nairobi, nini. So nimejaa kwa hizo groups zote. And luckily I saw a post in Embakasi constituency. I saw somebody asking if there is somebody that knows how to do lines, braids, nini. And I'm very good. That is now one thing that I always thank God for. I'm naturally talented. I can make all types of hairstyles. Unless kuna nimeanzishwa leo. But I can just look at it, nione vile inashukwa, na that's it. I'm naturally talented. When I touch hair, I leave it ikiwa to spotless.
Wow.
So I told that lady that had posted on Facebook that I'm available and I can start immediately. So that is how I found myself in Tasia. So nikaenda Tasia. I joined this team of people. Luckily, this was 2018, around October, November there. And a lot of students were closing school. So you can imagine how the salons were busy. Hey, I used to get money. I went home. My son at that point was at home. I went and got him. Nikakuja tukakomboa one single room ya 3,500 hapo tu Tasia kwa ndege. So that is where we were living with my son. So we had no gas, we had no stove, we had nothing. I used to have a heater, ile immersion heater ya red. Unajua ile yenye inaendanga saa zingine inalipuka, that one. Hapo kwa salon, you know, as salonist, kuna mtu atapita hapo awauzie njugu, awauzie nini. As in, my son used to eat. Tuna make sure by the time tunafunga hiyo salon saa 2 ya usiku, mtoto ashashiba. Na kama hata kuwa ameshiba tunapitia kwa restaurant. We used to buy ugali, beans, vitu kaa hizo. So I used to go to the house with the food, na warm food, na jug. You know, the immersion heater was actually working for me. So na warm maji moto, na dip ya ugali kiwa kwa karatasi. You know those karatasi zenye zilibaniwa those times. That is what I was using to warm our food. Na we used to like it. So nilikuwa nimespread ile mattress kadogo kale kanye kana kuanga ka campus, ile the small mattress. That is what we used to share with my son. And within no time I had bought a small stove, several cups and plates. Mtungi ya maji lazima, uko lazima you have to buy fresh water. So that was our life. And when I brought my son, let me just go back kidogo. Remember, my son was used to a good life in Kirugoya. Okay, good life in quotes. In terms of the house was a 1-bedroom, so the toilet was yetu peke yetu, private. So nimemleta kwa slum. The toilet in this place, oh my God. So you can imagine a rental, is it an apartment? Na ni singles, hizo tuwezi zita apartment. So ni zile singles zenye zinakuanga mingi, ndogo mingi, and then uko mwisho ndo kuko na choo 5 na bafu 5, and they are so messy. When I brought my son to that place, he refused to go to the toilet that day. He refused. And I told him that is the only way. That is the only way. And as a mother and as a single parent, that was one of the most breaking points of my life. And I knew there is no option, but I have to remove that boy from this place. I knew I had to do something. And the only way out of removing him from that condition, of which sisemi mwenye anaishi huko saizi ako na makosa anafanya, but to me, that was not our place, that was not our portion. I refused. So I was actually asking around how much is a 1-bedroom. People were telling me 1 bedroom there were like 12,000, 15,000. Bed sitter ndio ilikuwa ina range 7,000, and I was like, no, I cannot afford. So it was really, really hurting to see my son behaving like that. But within no time, aka catch up. Tukaanza like kuzoea. But I'm that person who will not like stay there and say that ati sasa.
You don't settle.
No. I say, no, this is not the place I want to be in. And that is why hata ile mattress tulikuwa tunalalia ilikuwa tu ndogo temporary. So fast forward, December was a very good month because definitely people were coming kushukwa sababu ya Christmas. I made a lot of money that time, and I'm that person that does not overspend. But definitely once in a while I used to buy fish, share with my son. At least ataya change diet, ache kukula makabiji na maragwe. So December ikaisha, January came. January 2019. Hey, the salon business at this point does not like work so well because a lot of students have gone back to school. People are busy paying school fees. That is when it hit on me that, well, it's not that easy outside here. So biashara ikakuwa kidogo, I'm not getting customers. Just once in a while napata mtu wa kuosha nywele. And one morning, I decided, let me check online. Let me go to these pages zenye nimekuwa nikisearch. And I searched and I went to hapo kwa search kwa Facebook nikaandika tu biology and chemistry teachers in Kenya. I saw a post, obviously after scrolling for some time, nikaona post. Hiyo post ilikuwa imeandikwa, we require a biology and chemistry teacher today to start working immediately. As in, they wanted a teacher ASAP, as soon as possible. So I took the number and I called the person that alikuwa amepost, alikuwa ameacha namba ya simu. So when I called, I had a guy speaking, and this guy that was speaking alikuwa mwalimu wa Miredho Girls High School. So I had never heard of that school before. So niko tu kwa hiyo single room yangu, nilikuwa tu nimelala hapo chini kwa mattress. I decided I'm going to try. But remember, I still remember the TSC rules, nini TSC number.
At this point you still don't have the TSC.
Sijawahi graduate. Nilimaliza nanga na teaching mimi. So nikaenda kwa shule yenye mtoto wangu alikuwa ameenda. That morning nilikuwa nishampeleka shule na nikarudi kwa nyumba. I was just lying there. So I wore my blue dress and then I went to Limuru. This school was not actually in Limuru town. It was in a place called Ndeya. So mimi ndio huyo Ndeya. It is a remote place. It is a remote place. So nikafika Ndeya, I went to this school. It's a big school. It's not like a small school. It was the same size as Ngaru Girls in Kerugoya. And the streams were much more than Kerugoya. It's bigger than Ngaru Girls. It's I think it's a county school. So I went, I introduced myself to the secretary, and I was shown where the biological sciences department was, where I was supposed to meet the head of department. Yeah, I presented my papers. They told me to show them the TSC whatevers. Luckily, what helped me is that I had copies of the provisional transcripts from that university where I had done the education courses. So I told them that I'm actually waiting for graduation. No, I did not tell them about the missing graduation ceremonies, the 3 ones. So I talked to the HOD I talked to the HOD biological sciences, and I explained to him that I have a good track record. Obviously, I had to speak well about myself. I told them that I'm a good teacher. I have a good track record of making students perform. I even dared them to give me a candidate class. And I promised them that I'm going to give them results. So I was very convincing, because definitely not having a TSC number was something that almost made them not give me the opportunity. It was
a setback.
Yeah. So 2019, I was still teaching in that school, and by the time most universities graduation huwa happened December. So before that graduation year 2019, in that school where I had done education and nikakosa pesa, I received a call from, I think it was the DVC, Deputy Vice Chancellor. So that even the Trucola was showing DVC that university. Yeah. So he told me, he was very calm, and he asked me questions, and he was like, why are you not able to graduate? We see that you performed so well. Actually, I have my certificates. I can show you the grades. They are okay. And he was like, why are you not coming for the graduation? Why are you not clearing 45,000 Kenyan shillings? And I was like, I don't get enough money to be able to pay 45,000 Kenyan shillings. So later on, he told me that they're going to discuss something about me and they're going to get back to me. So long story short, my university balance was waived by a particular, the county governments of this, like the way kuna kwangana Nairobi County, there is Nakuru County. So the county government of that place wali waive school fees yangu, and that is how I was able to clear the balance.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you
so
graduated.
I really thank God, yeah. So they only told me to pay for the gown and the graduation fees. But I still had some problems hapa kule. So that is how I was able to graduate. My certificate reads that I graduated in 2019. If you have ever heard about TSC, they employ teachers according to the year of graduation. So that again was a very, very big setback to me, because I saw a lot of people graduating and as in people getting employed by the TSC na ninawachwa. Not because I'm not qualified, but because my certificate reads that I graduated in 2019. So that is something that made me feel so bad. And later on, next year was 2020, the year when COVID came. Something happened, and it really made me feel like I should now like re-strategize myself and start doing things that will always favor me regardless of what happens in the environment. So this is what I'm trying to say. TSC sent a teacher to our school, a biology and chemistry teacher.
With a TSC number.
With a TSC number. That was 2020 to Kifungua. So I was just an innocent teacher. Opening day imefika, I was actually a good teacher, and I'm there. And people are being given timetables. Najua kila mwalimu anapatiwa timetable yake. Monday utakuwa hii time form 1, hii masaa utakuwa form 3, hii masaa utakuwa form 2, hivyo. I was not given a timetable, but there were new faces in the staff room, and I sensed danger. But somehow nikaambiwa nisimamie CAT, the open exam, na nikasimamia tu mtihani vizuri. So later on, after we were done marking the CATs, is when I was called by the principal with a letter. So the letter was addressing me and telling me that unfortunately we cannot continue anymore because the TSC has sent a teacher with the exact combination as you, and that is why we are releasing you. I remember crying in that staff room. Reason, remember, my son has gone to over 4 schools. Now this was almost the 5th school that he was in, and it's like telling me sasa to hame, because we had no other business in that area. So you can imagine. So we were told to, I was given a letter, and I was told that they're going to give me initangwa nini ile pesa yenye unalipwa mpaka ya next month ndio ujipange. So that I was given the salary for that month and for next month, so that at least I can plan myself. Luckily, obviously there is that ka feeling where umefutwa kazi uwezi enda ukiambia watu umefutwa. Luckily to me, sorry to say this, COVID came and schools were closed. So I told people I stopped working because of COVID, not because I was fired.
An excuse.
Yeah. So I went home, and when I went home, I stayed there for some time, but still, remember, the boy is growing and we need a school. I need to get a home, and I had to like think fast. So after COVID came to Kenya, I remember people were being cautioned, oh, don't go out, you're going to get COVID and watu. But to me, I was thinking, we are going to die of hunger with my son. What are you telling me? Unawezaje niambia nisitoke nikatafute pesa? So I remember watu walikuwa naambiwa don't go to congested places, but I decided I'm going to go to Gikomba. Remember, I was a teacher and I had dresses, I had skirt suits, I had these official trousers. They were among my first stock for my business. Nilikuwa natandika gunia kwa barabara. Yes, niliuza nguo zangu zote zenye nilikuwa natumia kwa shule, including shoes and including some of my child's clothes. So hizo ndo zenye nilianza nazo kwa biashara. Luckily, there were photos that I was taking, hata ziko kwa Facebook, nimezipiga mapicha nikiuza viatu za toto zingine hata zilikuwa zinakaa zimeraruka, but they still got customers.
Now for your son.
Yeah, is that it was my first stock that gave me money to go and get more stock in Gikomba. So nikiwa Gikomba is when I saw Kamkunji. Hata siku anajua kuna kuanga na Kamkunji, nilikuwa tunasikianga Kamkunji. Vile nilienda Gikomba nikanunua 2 tops, 2 t-shirts twa ladies na manguo za watoto. This one's move juu mama kipita hapo na mtoto aone kinyasa, aone ka t-shirt anaweza nunua. So nilikuwa naziuza very cheap. In Gikomba you can get clothes from as cheap as 15 bob.
Wow.
Yes, so I used to go and resell them at 50 bob, 100 bob, hivyo. Hizo ma prices kidogo kidogo. Yeah, so hapo ndo vile pia nasema nilienda nikaona kuna Kamkunji, and in Kamkunji is where I also started buying Crocs. So na buy Crocs, na buy slides hizi zinakuanga zimeandikwa tu sports ama Nike or Adidas, naenda naziweka pale kwa barabara na naziuza. So biashara ilikuwa poa. Nikaendelea na hiyo biashara, nauza. So kitu yenye ilifanya nikaacha hiyo biashara ni kwa sababu nilikuwa ninaona ni kama kwenda Gikomba sasa imeanza kukua serious. COVID became so serious, na nikaanza kusema let me look for an alternative market where I can be sourcing products. That is when I went to Githurai. Nilipoenda Githurai nikaanza kutafuta groceries. Nikasema let me think of groceries zenye haziwezi haribika haraka. So I went for oranges and onions. But when I introduced these things hapo kwa roadside, kwa barabara, I used to like put gunia na kaa kando na zitandika hapo. So a lot of people are asking, Kate, kwani what happened? Why are you selling tomatoes and oranges and vegetables by the roadside? Kwani what happened to teaching? At that point, nilikuwa nawaambia, we, kazi ni kazi. Unatafuta tu chenye mtoto wako at least atapata pesa ya matumizi hapa kule mkate. Yeah. Later on I decided to expand my territories, na nikaanza kusema nataka sasa move out of home, and that is when I went looking for a place where I can start my life. So this is where the dream of starting my own salon started, kwa sababu you remember there is a time nilikwambia salon ilikuwa inaleta pesa sana in the Tasia salon.
Yes.
So I said I can start a salon, na mimi ndo nitakuwa ninakula vile ule mwenye alikuwa ameniandika alikuwa nakula. Nikiona itakuwa na customers wengi, I will look for people online on Facebook. So that is where the Serenity Beauty Salon came from. I started a salon, I bought blow dryer, everything that is required in a salon, towels, everything. And this salon, when I opened it, definitely the normal setup, the basic ones is what I had. Chairs, towels, sikutaka vitu complicated. So when I started this salon, I started getting customers. Na customers ndo walikuwa naenda wanaelezea wengine, and that is how I used to get more customers.
And this is just out of your talent.
Yeah. And I'm very fast. I'm really fast. I can do all styles in the world. I just told you that. So nikani kushuka braid, I'm very fast. 2 hours, I'm done. So people, obviously most customers will want somebody that is fast. Unashinda umembendisha kichwa hapo the whole day. So when these customers were coming to my shop, as a person that is an intellect, I used to discover a lot of things. From the question they were asking me, all those I used to like nasikiliza kwa makini. When a customer walks into my shop, they will ask me, Kate, nataka unishuke Ghanaian lines, do you have braids? That's a business opportunity. Mi sasa siangalii ati ile atu hapana enda ununue pale. No. To me that was a business opportunity. And then you're done maybe braiding this person, and then they tell you, I mean siku 3 na kuangana itchiness. Unaweza kukijua anti-dandruff mzuri. And that was another business opportunity. And then unaenda kumstyle nywele na kuuliza, you don't have hair bands. That is how Kate Vlogs Cosmetics started. Because nilianza kuona hapa kuna opportunity, naweza kuwa nikishuka nywele na ninawauzia zile vitu zinakujanisha na hiyo nywele. And then some customers will also tell me, Kate, nimeng'ara nywele but I would want to do some makeup. Naona sasa hapo ndo ka cosmetic kanakuja kakiingia. Eye pencil is needed, this person wants some cream for rashes or something, or makeup, foundations, hizo vitu zote. So I started like looking for money. Na nakumbuka the first product that I introduced in my shop were braids. At that point, there was this brand of braids that moja ilikuwa ina cost 50 bob. I went kwa wholesaler nikanunua 50 times 20, 1000. Nikakuja nikatoboa msumari kwa wall, nikazipanga. Kuzipanga when I was sasa si nimezipanga hapo number 1, number 2, nimenunua colors mingi, and that is when I started discovering that kuko na zile colors zenye customer wanapenda, kuna zile hawaguzi, hawachagui, and that is how I started teaching people online what are the fastest moving colors kwa braids, what are the fastest moving cosmetic business, and I saw ninaweza fundisha watu online. I even never knew YouTube pays at that point, so I was doing it as a teacher kwa sababu niko na hiyo professionalism ya teaching, and I also wanted people to learn these things. So nilikuwa innocent nikiwafundisha, nikiwaambia if you put a remis near jua inaanza kuchange color na kuwa yellowish. It happened to me. There was a time I used to like nilikuwa naweka body splash na ma perfumes kwa jua, and then I realized after some time yenye ni pink inaanza kukua colorless. So all these lessons, mtu anaweza tu sema duka yangu jua inaingia, and that is hivyo umemalizana tu na hiyo story, but me I used to use that information to teach the whole world about if you put body splash kwa jua, it's going to taste yake inawezaisha, I mean the flavor, the harufu itaisha yote, na pia itaharibika, inakuwa tu plain water. Same to perfumes, hizi za refill hizo zote nilikuwa nafundishana. So I used to take a camera, nilikuwa naogopa. If you go to my previous videos, hata I had no confidence, but nilikuwa ninaona watu wanataka kulearn how comes vitu zenye nimeweka kwa duka zangu hazimuvingi. That is how I started teaching them about cosmetic products that actually are important in a shop but are not very necessary.
So any challenge or anything that you're encountering, you turn it into a lesson.
Yeah. So that is how mimi nimekuwa nikifungua mabiashara zangu out of seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of that opportunity, because a lot of people are seeing opportunities, but it takes somebody that can risk to make it work, to implement it.
Yes.
So what happened is this. I started this cosmetic business, and I also started teaching people about cosmetic products banned in Kenya, because it happened to me. There was a day a policeman came into the shop and they told me that toa hile na hile na hile na hile na uziweke chini, and it was a real type of harassment. And I was so innocent, but nilikuwa nimezipata kwa maduka Kamkunji, so I did not know how they were able to sell them, and they did not tell me that these things were illegal. So I also taught the world about the cosmetic products that are actually banned in Kenya. There is a comprehensive video on my channel about that. So everything that I was doing, I was actually taking an opportunity to learn and also teach the world about it. Something else about me. I study the community that is around me, and when I study that community, I always sell products that the consumers want and need every day. There are products that you can come to sell in your area and they will not move. Reason, a customer can do without that particular product. So normally what I do, I normally sell my products affordably so that at least I can attract a lot of customers. So another product that I started introducing to my customers, because of how they were talking to me and how I was gathering information, is there was a trend of people wanting happy socks. So I started going to Eastleigh and asking how much are happy socks. I used to buy happy socks at 420 shillings in Eastleigh. So nikiwa kwa matatu, wakati nakuja kufungua saloni yangu, nilikuwa nakuja nikiziingishanisha. You know, these socks are sold as singles, but you want to like put them in pairs, and at least customer kichagua anajua kiipika amepiki ikiwa pair. So that is what I was doing, and I will say that business was actually doing well. That is where I realized that actually I can teach the world, get paid from YouTube, and still continue improving or making sure that my salon business and my cosmetic business is well stocked. I had a table where I was displaying jewelries, hairbands, vitu kama hizo. Nilikuwa tu na hook hapo nje ya mlango. Ndani nashuka hapo nje ndo nimeweka tu earrings, vitu tu socks, kila kitu. So later on somebody came into my life, and they wanted to help me improve that cosmetic section by adding more money to it. So I think that was one mistake that I did, and at least I learned. because when that business grew to whatever it was at that point, where there were displays, but there were some disagreements here and there, and that disagreement made me lose this business, the whole of it.
The salon and the
everything,
cosmetics.
including what I had before, and everything else that was added, zote down, so back to zero. So me and my son we started life again from scratch, zero. And when I was now alone, that is when I started doing serious business videos on YouTube. So I started, if you go to those videos, you're going to realize that nilikuwa nakalia mtungi nikifanya video. Because I can tell you, I lost absolutely everything. Everything, including with mpaka vitu za home, everything, zero. So I started teaching. I started teaching people how to talk to customers, how to convince a customer to buy something, how to make double sales. Kwa mfano, if a customer comes to your shop and wants to buy makeup, you will always want to convince them, primer lazima iendanishe na foundation, foundation lazima iendanishe na concealer, concealer na eyeshadow, as in make sure that customer anunue vitu kama 5 atago. You can convince them, mwambie vile important na hii. So I used to teach all those on YouTube, and the small money that I used to get from YouTube, and in addition to what I was getting from YouTube, nikajipata ninaingia sasa kwa madeni. So I was able to survive through mobile loan apps. I used to lend from them every day. So I used to lend from this one and pay this one. There was one of them that was giving me more money. So I used to borrow from the small ones and pay that one. So when this one gives me more, because last time they maybe gave me 15,000, now they're giving me 19, I will pay the small ones and then do business with the others. So that is how I found myself going to Gikomba. First of all, I will go to a shop that sells hairs on wholesale. And when I talk about hairs, I'll buy baby kids extension hairs, adult extension hairs, crochets, extension weaves and braids. Then between 5 and 7 p.m. when kanjos hawayuko, that is when my business was starting in Gikomba. So I used to spread the sack kwa ground. You know this the route where from Kamkunji to Gikomba, ile njia katikati ya barabara, the way hawkers do. So nilikuwa natandika hapo my braids well spread hapo kwa ground, and I used to sell. Actually, there is no day niliwaienda nyumbani na nywele. I realized there is a lot of opportunity out there, and I used to also like go to YouTube and tell people, because sasa si nilikuwa nimeanza kwenda environment ya Gikomba sasa vizuri. So I realized hata viatu watu wanauziwa 200 huku kwa barabara. So if hawa wenye tunauza na wao hapo kando, naona wakiuza viatu 200, wanauza to t-shirts tuzuri 100 bob. I started like doing research during the day, kwa sababu kazi yangu ilikuwa inaanza 5 to 7 because of kanjos. So mchana nilikuwa naenda Gikomba sasa nafanya upelelezi na investigate. Nikaenda nikajua mpaka mashimo za Gikomba uko ndani mali most people don't get there. Nikaanza kujuana na suppliers, nikaanza kujua mashimo zenye viatu ni cheap, and I started telling the world about this. I used to also go live on YouTube nikionyesha watu Gikomba vile kuna kaa vile viatu ni cheap. And you know Kenya is big, so I used to get people calling me from Kitale, Eldoret, Meru, wapi, wanaanza kuniambia Kate, hizo viatu zenye nimeona kwa video yako unaweza nitumia kama mzigo. So that is how Kate Errands Services started. So umeniambia unataka viatu za 5,000 shillings. Nakwambia unilipe nikununulie nikutumie. So what I used to do it on video. I have a lot of videos doing errands for different products. So I used to charge a small fee for all my services, and that is how I was able to also expand into other products like Crocs. Nenda nanunua Crocs za 2,000 na kutumia unanipatia 400 yangu ama 500 yangu. That is how I used to like earn. And I stopped being a seller sasa. Nikasema let me concentrate on doing what? Errands. So I continued like that, and I started expanding into different territories. ile wakati sina orders naanza kuvisit these major companies in Kenya. I've visited most of the hair companies in Kenya, most crop producing companies in Kenya, diaper producing companies. Yeah, those manufacturers. So nimeenda na this is information that a lot of people don't know. So unakuta they are actually interested in those products. So ikaendelea hivo, and I started getting famous on the cosmetic sector. So a lot of people wanted me to help them jumpstart their cosmetic businesses, and I have opened a lot of cosmetic businesses in Kenya. For people? Yes, a lot of them. A lot of people used to send me money. Naniambia, because of the way you talk on YouTube, it seems that like you understand a lot about this sector. And I would want you to do shopping for me. How much are you going to charge me? So I started as an errands person for Izima Cosmetic. Nenda na kununulia mzigota ya 500,000. Most of the people that actually have sent me have never met me personally. People just send money, because if you send me your money, I will make sure that I will be able to send that parcel on that day and send you receipts and everything. That is how I was able to earn their trust. So people were sending money from all over the country, and it continued like that until I used to get orders from other countries like South Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, and I also have a lot of customers from Europe and USA. There is a parcel that I also showcased on YouTube where I was sending parcels to Bungoma. That actually was a USA client who is supporting a children's home in Bungoma. So yeah, so most of the time I'm able to know where to source products if you want to become a wholesaler, because most of the wholesalers that we have in this country, actually most of them source their products locally. But if you visit their shop, you will think that they import the products. And we also have a few products that are imported from China or any other countries. So I have done a lot of research. It has taken a lot of time. I use a lot of money. I travel. I've gone to a lot of locations looking for this kind of information. And that way I'm able to advise people accordingly. If you sell to me this product at 2,500 shillings, and definitely had visited a manufacturer, I have their catalog, I'm able to bargain up to a certain point where I feel it's comfortable for both you and me. And that is why I'm able to also know how a particular cosmetic product should cost. Au utanigonga bei, najua bei ya hiyo kitu kwa manufacturer. I have a lot of catalogs here. Actually, for the big companies in Kenya, I always visit them and talk as if I want to open that business. Most of the time, they will want you to explain where your shop location is. They don't just give everybody their goods. So that is how I'm able to know a lot of information about stocking products, what are the necessary products, what are the cheapest products that you should stock in your shop, which are more cheaper than this other company. So I'm able to advise my customers, you know.
So now, when you said that you also help in jump-starting businesses, and you have done that for quite a number of people in the country.
Yeah.
When you come and jump-start my business, how will I run it?
So most of the time when a customer calls me and they want to start maybe a cosmetic business, and I have sourced maybe hair products, body care products, jewelries, I will always advise a customer to always sell those products almost equal to how the competitor is selling. So if a competitor is selling braids at 70, you are not supposed to sell that product at 80 shillings. But if you go to my channel, you will see that I will always advise my customers to go down with even a shilling. If you sell a product at 69 bob and another person is selling at 70 shilling, kumbuka siku hizi hata hatuna mashilingi za kurudisha change. But the fact that I'm less 1 shilling, customers will come into my shop. Naambia tu sina hiyo bob, utachukua next time. And that way nimesell tu kama ule competitor.
So some of these tips they get from your educational
from
videos.
My channel, yeah.
And you're very big on YouTube, I should say.
Yeah, thank you. So apart from doing errands on cosmetic, toiletries, and all other things, I do business consultation. You want to start a business, you want me to explain how you should set your display area, because having a cosmetic business has taught me a lot. I had a cosmetic business, and there is a way in which you're supposed to set these businesses for you to attract more customers. The way the shop looks from outside, that shop should sell itself. for people to know even at a distance ile ni cosmetic shop. Kuko na vile unaonanga butchery zote zimepaintiwa white and red, that already is a selling point, lazima kuna nyama ndani. Most pinks zinakuanga cosmetic, most lilac or what you call light purple inakuanga most beauty shops. That is why ukiona tu pink hivi na hitingi kwa kichwa, that's a beauty shop. So there is no way your shop will be dull and then you come tell me you're not making sales. User display is what sells in a business. So I teach a lot about how to make sales. It's not about, you can be having the best product in the market, but the display area can make you not make sales at all. Before you sell, the shop must sell itself. Yeah, and remember, display is expensive. A lot of people don't want to invest money in display. Yeah, if you don't invest money in display, the shop cannot sell by itself. Wezi enda tu mwage cosmetic na gunia tu chini na ziuzike. No, you have, that is why you see some people investing in very bright lightings in their shop, mirrors to reflect and create an illusion of space. All those are displays that are quite costly. Yeah. Wow. What a conversation we are having here. Yeah. And the tips that you are getting. And all these are also available in your videos. Yeah. So, now let's continue. So what happened? When I was doing these errands, I saw that I had a lot of potential in the market because I used to see myself going to these particular shops, tuseme kwa mfano beads, hair bands, kids headbands, a lot of accessories. And I felt if I had these products as the seller, I would have benefited more. So that is how the dream of starting Kate Vlogs Enterprises started. And it took a long time before I discovered where I can source these products from, because nobody wants to tell you where you're supposed to get the products from. Nobody wants to give you the mashimos. Hakuna mtu ako willing kukwambia tu enda hapa na utapata hizi products na bei rahisi. Everybody wants you to be their customer. You know? So I researched. And now I bring products from China direct, just like them. And that is how I started my business. And I concentrated on the products that are fast moving in the market. If you check my videos, you're going to see when I was starting my shop in Kamkunji, I stocked only on the products that I always mention as the fastest moving cosmetic products. But when I started this business, there was a challenge because remember, I was doing errands for all diverse products, including toiletries, Crocs, shoes, all those products. So there was a time, if you visited my shop, you will find that I have cosmetics, I have toiletries, I have stationaries, I have sandals, I have doll shoes. There was a lot of confusion in my shop. Reason, I wanted to sell everything that my customers were asking for. You know, because now I was able to interact with the manufacturers. So I was getting them at a cheaper price and I was able to sell like the wholesalers. So I started stocking on all those products in my shop, but it reached a point I realized that I'm not giving a particular product all its potential. And what I mean is, if we're talking about Crocs, I'm not able to stock a lot of Crocs because I have limited capital. So I decided to specialize on a particular line so that at least I can give it my best. And that is why if you visit my shop today, you're going to get that I stopped stocking on Crocs, I stopped stocking on stationaries, toiletries. And it's not because these products are not moving. It's because I don't have a lot of capital to stock all of them. And I also don't have enough space to put all these products in one particular shop. That is why I've decided to specialize. And if you go to my shop right now, you're going to see that I'm now specializing in shoes. Not because the others were bad, but because, as I have said, the space and capital is what is my problem. Given opportunities, I will have all those products in different parts of Kamkunji. That means if there is somebody who is watching us today and has capital, they can get into these there are still products that really move fast in the market. Thank you for that. I know someone will get in touch with you to understand and know what product they'll get into. You set apart this day for us to have this conversation. How do you run your business? So my business has I have people that work for me. They work under Kate Vlogs Enterprises. I have two very amazing people that work for me. Shout out to them. They are doing an amazing job. So in this business, I have a system where I feed all the stock that comes into my shop. And I also have cameras that help me monitor the business, not because I just want to monitor what is happening there, but also because of some small complaints that come once in a while. Maybe you've sent some items and this customer is complaining that they were not able to receive A, B, C, and D. So we are able to go back to the cameras and ascertain if that information is correct. And if the error was from the shop, we correct it immediately. And sometimes we also go back to the cameras and you will find out that maybe that information was false.
So that is all about Kate Vlogs enterprises?
Yeah, so if you visit our shop today, you're going to see that we stock on mostly ladies' shoes and a bit of cosmetics here and there, but I still do errands. Even as much as I am managing my shop in Kamkunji, I'm still able to go and do errands for toiletries, tissues, other cosmetic products that I do not stock, and I'm also able like to follow up with my clients. Somebody calls maybe from the States, they want to start a business in Kenya, I'm able to advise them at a small fee, definitely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're running errands. You mean you can run errands for people from around the globe? Yeah.
I send parcels. There is a video I've done showing how I've been able to send parcels to like Johannesburg. So the good thing about sending parcels outside there is that you don't have to use flights, which are very expensive. We have lorries, buses that go to these places. For Uganda, we use Simba Coach. For South Africa, we use some lorries that are not around the city, but they are outskirts. So I have to use an Uber, make sure that I carry the parcels well. There are some products that you cannot send to South Africa. So I have studied the market so well to know what to send to South Africa and what not to send to South Africa. Yeah.
Wow, that is quite a conversation we've had.
Yeah.
And so many tips. And of course, some of them will still reach out to you for more. Because today we were here to get that inspiration.
Yeah.
That my take home from a business perspective is that before I sell in a shop, the shop should sell itself.
Yeah. And stock necessities. Don't stock random things that you love. I always tell customers that come to my shop, for example, if they want to buy shoes, you hear mtu anakuambia isi poa. It is not poor to you. You should stock things. Unafaa kuwekea watu kila kitu, because if I don't love a red dress, kuna customer mwenye ataona tu red dress na niendo atachukua. It's not about you. If you want to start a business, stock everything that is necessity in the market, regardless of what you love, kwa sababu what you love is not what the customers love, including jewelries. When you're stocking jewelries, hairs, kuna mimi siwezi shuka nywele ya maroon, but kuna watu wanapenda maroon. So nakuta as a business person, unafaa kujua that it is not about you, it's about what the customers outside there want. Alafu kitu ingine about biashara, a lot of people, especially our wenye wako na capital kidogo, they really fear starting businesses. Business already ni risk. Hata mimi wakati nachukua labda 20,000 nawekelea kwa biashara, it's not like I'm guaranteed I'm going to sell, but I will try as much as possible to make sure that it works by making sure that niko huku nje niko aggressive sana kuhakikisha ita work. Na unakuta kuna mtu mwenye akona pesa anakuanga amelalisha kwa bank. Hiyo pesa umelalisha kwa bank, ingekuwa tu huku nje ingekuwa already inaza kidogo inakupatia na inaendelea bado ku retain its value in the market. So mimi I believe if you don't risk, hakuna siku yenye utawai ona progress kwa life yako, kwa sababu nakuta huyu mtu anashinda akisema yeye anaogopa kuwekelea 5,000 anunue viatu ama anunue cosmetic kwa sababu anaona watu ni wengi. But I also want to mention at this point, watu ni wengi wenye wanauza hizo vitu, but still the market is too big. Yeah.
That is the point, that it's too big. Nobody should feel like there are no opportunities. Talk to us about your journey in asthma. We are here for inspiration.
Yeah. So I've been asthmatic. I don't know if it is asthmatic because there is no particular doctor that has ati amekuja kanipima akaenda kwa details akajua ni asthma, but I had this problem where if I run kidogo nilikuwa nashindwa ku breathe, and it's something that has really been a problem over the years since I was in high school, in primary school. Mimi ule mtoto singekimbia. So it has been a very, very difficult journey, and I can't remember from last year February kurudi nyuma sikuwa ilala usiku mzima. I've never like slept for a whole night without waking up like 3 or 4 times to use my inhaler. So when I started getting small monies here and there after errands in Nini, I decided that I'm tired of visiting the chemist, buying drugs from Easy Naitangwa over the counter, and I was tired of a life where ninanunua mpaka inhaler na wholesale. Nenda nachukua inhaler sita, nasema sasa wacha tu zikae kwa wardrobe for those times maybe sitakuwa na pesa. And sometimes I buy this hizi madawa tu za kifua. So ikafika place nikasema I think I should look for a chest specialist, because we have doctors and also tuko na wale daktari wenye wanaitwa specialized doctors on specific conditions. So I decided to go to Google, nikaanza kutafuta who is a specialist in chest, and that is how my search took me to Kenyatta National Hospital. And I want to thank God, because since I visited Kenyatta National Hospital, mimi nilikuwa nimeishi kulala na inhaler chini ya pillow. I used to sleep saa zingine hata unaishikilia tu ndio isipotee usiku, because nitaamka tu nikigasp for air. But since I visited Kenyatta National Hospital, I saw a difference. And that is why a lot of people are not able to get these kinds of treatment, because number one, it is expensive. To visit such a doctor, nililipa consultation mzuri tu. And definitely there were tests that were done to me, like spirometry, where they test the intensity of how the lungs have been damaged. Wanaangalia details kabisa. Umeingia tena kwa biology, Yeah, so wanaangalia the alveolus, wanaangalia the bronchioles, how they are behaving. They test how inhalation happens. You are told to breathe in, breathe out, so that at least they can see the capacity of your lungs. And they noted that actually I have mild asthma. Mild meant that the asthma was not even as chronic as I thought it was. Because now this doctor amenda a step further kuangalia detailed my lung iko aje kabisa. So after that niliambiwa nitupe dawa zote zenye nilikuwa natumia. I used to have a lot of drugs, prednisolone. I used to buy a lot of drugs over the counter, steroids, which have really damaged my immunity at that time. But when I started treatment, do you know that particular time, February 2023, I will never forget that day. That is the first night I slept without touching an inhaler. Wow. Yeah. So that is how I was able to forget. I don't even wheeze nowadays. I don't even remember wheezing. But I'm here to also tell somebody that asthma is not a death sentence, and this is a disease that actually can be treated and you will live a normal life. I was that person that will not have used the staircase without stopping nipumzike. But nowadays, napanda stairs mpaka juu nikikimbia. I can carry heavy luggages, things I was not able to do. So somehow, if you look at the way you go to these small hospitals, unaenda kwa hiyo hospitali every week for treatment, and compare, ukichukua hizo pesa unapeleka kwa hizo hospitali, ujipeleke tu siku moja kwa a specialist, I think that condition can be treated. Wow. So mimi, I can't remember wheezing, and I thank God. I just don't want to credit the hospital or the doctor. It's God, kwa sababu kasi Mungu singeweza kufikiria nawezaenda mahali kama kwa specialist na nitibiwe na live a very normal life. Yeah. And he has also given you the grace to be able to run these errands and have business tips so that you can get that extra coin to cater for your health. Yeah. How is your dating life, Kate? Dating, I'm not dating. No, I'm not dating. You don't want to? With all this, nitasema zinaitwa nini? Kukimbia up and down, kutafuta pesa, niko kwa slum, niko kwa chips, niko kwa barabara nikiuza vitu. Nobody will want to look at somebody like me, and nobody wanted to look. Really, Kate? Yeah, that time, a lot of people obviously left. Hakuna mtu anataka kudeal na mtu mwenye hana direction, mara uko slum, mara unashuka nywele huku, kuna mtoto, school fees. I looked like a person who has a lot of ndasema nini, a lot of things that require financial help. So most people obviously avoided such a person, and even right now a lot of people will avoid such a person. Yeah. So that is why I'm just doing my business and concentrating on making myself a better woman. Yeah. Do you have an aspirations of dating, and what kind of a person would you want to have in your life? In future, yes, maybe somebody that is aggressive enough, and that person that maybe is like me. Me, I'm very aggressive. Me, I don't settle. I want to compete every day with the kid that was actually struggling yesterday.
That's it.
I compete with I don't have anybody in mind that I'm competing with, because I don't know where you get your monies from. I don't know what your focus is on. Me, I compete with the kid who was cooking chips and chapatis on the streets of Nairobi. Yeah. So that is the woman that I don't want to go back to. And obviously my son right now is grown. He's 11 years old, almost going into junior secondary school. I'm the 100% guardian who takes care of his bills and everything. So I don't want a situation where I will not be able to afford to make his life better. Obviously, we are going to junior secondary, it's expensive. So I have a lot on my table that I have to make sure that I focus on 100%. So if somebody is not aggressive, if somebody is not able to work smart, not only hard, everybody is working hard. So it takes a smarter person to really push through this economy. Yeah.
Do you meet them? Do you meet these smart people, or what kind of people do you meet?
No, my life revolves around being at home with my son and going to my business. Yeah.
All right. Let's not probe further, but we pray that God will provide someone.
Yeah.
Yes. A smart, aggressive person. Are you out there? I'm not campaigning for them, but I'm just telling them what they need to consider. Smartness.
Very aggressive.
Aggressiveness.
And somebody definitely that will not come into my lifestyle and then I started degrading. So me, I want somebody that comes maybe into my life and makes me a better person than I am right now. So if you're that person, make me a better person than I am right now, or maybe improve us further. A better person for me is like that. Yeah. So
where can you be found?
I am Kate Vlogs on YouTube, Kate Vlogs on TikTok, and on Facebook and Instagram. Also, my shop location is called Mokore Building. Iko hapo Kamkunji near police station, or just next to the Kamkunji Trade Center. Mokore Building, shop JJ26. That is where you can get us. Most of the time I'm also there as a sales attendant. Yeah, you can come and promote us. And I also do errands. I do business consultation. If you want to learn something about business, my number is always public. So you can just talk to me via my official phone number.
Kate, one can listen to you and I understand why people watch your videos. You're very inspirational, very eloquent, and you're able to put your points across in a very simple way. We thank you for your time and giving us that inspirational talk. We wish you the very best. We wish Kate Vlogs Enterprises the very best. Go to the next level. And of course, continue sharing these tips with us. Yeah, I will continue sharing. Yes. So I don't consider myself as a successful woman so far. I still think I'm still crawling and still finding my way outside there. Yeah. If you're crawling, then some of us are toddlers, but we are still coming. We are on the way. Yeah. Thank you so much. And in no way did we mean offense to saying that you're competing with the kid who was making chapatis, because there's somebody who is there making chapatis. Yeah. They are on a journey, and I think they can also listen to your story. Yeah. They would get more tips on how to better even that chapati making business. Okay. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Tuko family, I don't have anything else to add on to Kate's words. I hope you've learned something, and I hope this is what you've been asking for, and we'll continue doing this. Thank you so much. And by the way, you can also suggest some of the people that you'd want us to bring here to get more inspiration, to get their success stories, as much as we share this glass of juice. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kingori Wangeshi. Keep watching. This has been Inspire Kenya, right here from Tuko.